Happening now, a new warning that Americans are less safe because of the prisoner swap that freed Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl. A top U.S. official says he has no doubt lives will be lost. Plus, a second brazen airport attack. Taliban terrorists are shooting down suggestions that they're getting weak. And Hillary Clinton, between the lines, did she unintentionally let her presidential plan slip during her campaign to sell books? We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Wolf Blitzer. You're in the Situation Room. Right now, President Obama is getting more heat than ever over the secret deal that led to the release of an American soldier, Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl. Members of Congress aren't buying the administration's reasons for keeping them in the dark before the prisoner swap with the Taliban. And now, the House Speaker is going much farther, invoking the name of Osama bin Laden, suggesting that Americans may die. Our chief congressional correspondent, Dana Bash, is watching what's going on up at the Hill, and it's pretty dramatic.
It is. Look, outrage on Capitol Hill goes far beyond the question of why Congress wasn't notified. There's bipartisan concern about the terms of the deal, that it may put Americans' lives in jeopardy.
An ominous warning from the House Speaker. The president risked Americans' safety, releasing 5 Taliban prisoners in exchange for Bowe Bergdahl.
There is not any doubt in my mind there are going to be lost lives associated with what came out of this.
But John Boehner couldn't try to stop the deal because Congress wasn't notified. It raises the big question.
Does this administration trust Congress?
Sure.
Laughter, because many know the real answer is no. Administration officials are telling lawmakers they weren't notified about the Bergdahl prisoner swap out of fear it would leak. Boehner is pushing back with a stark example, the Osama bin Laden raid.
I was given a heads up several days before this happened. And so this idea that they couldn't trust us to not leak things is just not true.
The White House argues Boehner and other top lawmakers knew the basics of the bin Laden plans, but not the specifics.
The Speaker was not informed of precise operational details of a secret military mission.
Still, sources tell CNN the administration did actively bring top lawmakers into the fold on the bin Laden plans early and often, unlike the Bergdahl prisoner swap, where the administration floated the idea in late 2011, got bipartisan pushback, and never went back to Congress.
I was never briefed about a 5-to-1 swap, nor were there ever any names.
Other congressional sources tell CNN the administration did give Congress the 5 Taliban names under consideration back in 2011. In fact, perhaps fueling administration worries about leaks, Senate Intelligence Chairwoman Dianne Feinstein did confirm the prisoner swap discussion to Foreign Policy magazine in 2012, making clear she opposed it, saying, "These are major Taliban figures. They are not minor people, and they will not be in the same kind of custody, maximum security custody."
A Feinstein source tells me she was approached by a reporter who already had the information and did not leak it. In any event, the way she, a leading Democrat, opposed the concept early on brings up another key difference between Bergdahl and that prisoner swap and the bin Laden raid, and that is killing the most wanted man on the planet wasn't controversial, but Wolf, rescuing Bergdahl and a political deal that involved releasing 5 Taliban prisoners certainly was.
We're getting some new poll numbers showing what the American public thinks of this swap.
Generally, they're not impressed. More people in America are opposed to it than support it, and certainly that is aided and fueled likely by the fact that Congress is not happy and there's a firestorm.
Yeah, stand by. I want to expand the conversation. We're joined by Eli Lake, Kimberly Dozier. They've been doing some serious reporting for the Daily Beast. Kimberly, you and Eli are reporting that the U.S. intelligence community from the start believed that at least 4 of these 5 would eventually go back to the battlefield and try to kill Americans?
Yes, and that was actually Eli's get, that was the best assessment of the intelligence community, that these people might present a threat down the road. At the same time, what President Obama faced was news that the Qataris were saying the Taliban was thinking about killing Bowe Bergdahl. Time was running out. So he was weighing these 2 factors. Do we get him out and let these 5 guys go and face them down the road? do we let Bergdahl die in captivity?
So, Eli, if the intelligence community was telling the president, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, Director of National Intelligence, they believe 4 of these 5 would go back to the battlefield, what was their response? What was the counter argument to let them go, in effect?
Well, I think that you have to look at the dates. When this is first being discussed inside the administration, it's 2011. There is still a surge in Afghanistan, and there are far more American troops in Afghanistan at that time. President Obama has just announced that the last American troops are going to be leaving by the end of 2016. By the end of 2015, there will be 5,000 American troops. So there will be, in some sense, fewer targets for these Taliban commanders once they rejoin the fight, as they are predicted to do so. But they still present a major challenge, not to mention the propaganda victory, in the war between the Afghan elected government and the Taliban.
There's going to be 10,000 U.S. troops next year, 9,800, and half as many the year afterward. That's still a lot of troops.
It's still a lot of troops, but I think that the mission, because of those low numbers, is going to change significantly. Right now, U.S. troops are involved in a lot of the kind of hands-dirty counterterrorism mission. I think by the time the end of 2014, it's the end of combat operations, and American troops are not going to be playing that same kind of role. It's not going to be as dangerous.
You want it this way in, Kimberly?
I was just going to say the counter argument to keeping them in captivity is once they're out there, they are on the battlefield. They can be taken out by U.S. drone strikes, by U.S. forces working together with Afghan counterterrorism forces. On the other side of that, however, this has been a huge propaganda victory for the Taliban. And when you look at what was going on inside the organization, the military wing was arguing with the political wing about whether or not to negotiate peace. Now the military wing has been strengthened by the fact that they kept fighting and they've got 5 of their top guys back.
So it's a political victory from their perspective. Here's what a lot of members on the Hill, you speak to them all the time, Dan, are really upset about. Not just Republicans, but Democrats like Dianne Feinstein, that there may have been 70 or 80 or 90 officials in the executive branch in the Obama administration, including military personnel, who may have known various aspects of what was going on. Certainly there were a bunch of officials in Qatar who knew what was going on. There were a bunch of Taliban leaders who knew what was going on. There were even a bunch of Haqqani network terrorists who knew what was going on. All these people knew what was going on, but the White House refused to trust someone like Dianne Feinstein or Carl Levin, the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. That's what irritates so many people on the Hill.
No question about it. And when that news was given to members of the House in a closed-door briefing last night, that 80 to 90 members of the administration knew, and nobody in Congress was told, it lit even more, poured more fuel on this fire. But I think that, as I put in my piece, and as you all have been reporting, a big part of the reason why they weren't told, it's pretty obvious, is because there was bipartisan opposition to the idea. Dianne Feinstein, as you said, she certainly is a senior person, but she made very clear in a public way back then that she didn't like the idea. So why would the administration come to them and tell them and get pushback and when they'd already made the decision?
That's why they didn't notify even someone like Carl Levin or Dianne Feinstein, because they didn't want to hear, don't do it? Is that what you're
my colleague Josh Rogan is the reporter who approached Feinstein and got that on the record confirmation when he was at Foreign Policy Magazine. But I think that this administration is very frustrated with what they see as a lot of leaks, not just on this. And they realized that in some ways, I think there was information that said, if this gets out, it could not only blow up the negotiations, it could endanger the life of Bowe Bergdahl.
Yeah, but there are leaks not just from congressional sources, from executive branch sources. As all of us know, there are tons of leaks all the time.
The key is because this was so controversial, the fear was that people who didn't like the deal would get it out there in order to stop it.
There were people in the administration who didn't like the deal, and there were no leaks, even though there were plenty of people inside the administration who weren't happy with it, guys.